This is the story of Dhoni, who lives in a small town in England. His dream was to become a very famous stand-up comedian one day. To chase his dream, he moved to London. He was convinced that by the time he turned 30, he would be a millionaire and his life would be settled. But life had something else in store for him. He never even imagined in his dreams that life would be so difficult. Well, whatever his journey may have been, by the time he was 29, he ended up working as a regular bartender in a small bar. Living on rent in a big city like London wasn't possible for him, so he started living with his ex-girlfriend, Sarah. Girlfriend's mom used to live for free with Kelly, and Kelly, on the other hand, used to live in a different city for her job. One day, in her pub, a middle-aged woman came, looking quite distressed. When Dhoni went to take her order, he found out that she didn't even have money for a cup of tea. Feeling sorry for her, he offered her a tea. After that, she started bragging, as if she were a lawyer. In this profession, she has won many awards with famous politicians like David Cameron and Nick Clegg. She has to get up and sit with them every day in Pimlico. She has a flat with a private garden in Pimlico, a box heath with 2 bell sizes in the park, etc. After she left, Dhoni kept thinking that if she was so rich, why didn't she have money even for a cup of tea? The next day, she came again. Now it had become her daily routine. Martha was the name of that unknown woman. Now, every day she would come to Dhoni in a different way, dressed up, and say that she was in a hurry. She didn't have time for this or that, there was a meeting, and then she would spend the whole day with Dhoni. Time and again, Martha would praise Dhoni as if he were very handsome. Anyone should be banned from praising themselves in public places. However, everyone enjoys hearing compliments from others. Dhoni also enjoyed it. Then she would spend the whole day gossiping about people she didn't even know. Sometimes, if someone cracked a joke, she would laugh so hard that the people around would be surprised. Occasionally, she would talk about running away with each other, calling him, "My dear Reindeer." Some days, she would become completely sad, as if something very bad had happened to her. Dhoni also started feeling sympathy for her every day, seeing her sad. Now, even his friends who worked with him started thinking that Martha might be his girlfriend. They teased him about it, but Dhoni remained completely silent because Martha was a 42-year-old middle-aged woman, and he felt sad looking at her, so to cheer her up, he would tell her jokes and stuff. Martha, on the other hand, started dreaming of Dhoni taking her somewhere else. She suddenly said, "If you marry me, you'll become a co-owner of my property. I've even bought a paint house, now all we need is someone to hang curtains in it." Dhoni jokingly replied, "I'll hang curtains for you." She had joked to make everyone laugh, but Martha took it seriously. These days, Martha had managed to find Dhoni's email address from somewhere, and she would send him hundreds of emails every day. The next day, she made plans to go on a picnic. Dhoni couldn't understand how to refuse her without hurting her feelings. He felt that Martha's behavior was childish, maybe something bad had happened to her in the past, which is why she was like this. So, he refused by saying they were not a couple, just good friends. They could go for coffee as friends after the shift ended. Dhoni took her to a coffee shop after the shift. Martha seemed very happy today and was laughing at every punchline. When the waiter came to take the order, Martha asked for just a glass of plain water. When Dhoni asked her, she said she didn't have a budget for coffee, but she always talked about millions. Yet, she didn't even have money to buy a cup of coffee. In the midst of all this, Dhoni felt that Martha was feeling a bit uneasy today. To know what was bothering him, she created a scene. It seemed as if she would kill whoever was bothering Dhoni in some way. After understanding the situation, he sent her home. Who was this woman and what deep secret was behind her madness? To find out, Dhoni started following her. He found out that she lived alone like a scrap house. Dhoni was secretly watching her when Martha's email came on his phone. The next moment, he ran away from there. A few days later, Donny had a competition. He had reached the semi-finals. As soon as his number came up, and he started entertaining the audience. He tried his best, but all his jokes were failing, and there was complete silence among the audience. Amidst that silence, a woman started laughing loudly. Donny started making jokes about Martha, which made the audience burst into laughter. After a while, seeing people laugh at his jokes, he couldn't believe it himself. This victory was all thanks to Martha. Late at night, he was fired from the company for misconduct with Facebook. After that, Martha started following him everywhere and even filed a report for mistreating a disabled child. Once, she attacked her boss's mom, for which she has already been sentenced to 4 years. This means that she doesn't leave the person she's after until she's taken to court. Now, even on Donny's old posts, there were comments from her. From there, he found out about Kelly, and the comments full of jealousy indicated what Martha thought of Donny. After a few weeks, Donny met a trans woman named Terry, who was very beautiful. Today, they were meeting for the 6th time. Terry was like a ghost to her. Neither did she openly talk about herself, nor did she go to drop her off at the station. Moreover, he kept calling her to this cocktail bar repeatedly. She wasn't on any social media either. Terry jokingly said she was quite weird and hoped she wouldn't end up as a headline on a crime news channel someday. To this, Donny replied that he liked the atmosphere here, it was very peaceful. Reality was something else entirely. In fact, he didn't want anyone close to him to find out that he was dating a trans woman. He found a website where he changed his name and profession to hide his identity. This is how he met Terry. She was quite open-minded and had the humor that Donny lacked. 6 years ago, she had shifted to London and worked as a therapist. Since he met her, Donny had been quite happy, but deep down, he was also afraid that someone close might find out that he was dating a trans woman. Finally, when they talked about meeting face to face, he chose a dimly lit cocktail bar at the far end of the city. The next morning, Martha came looking for him since Donny hadn't shown up at the pub the previous day. So, Martha assumed he must have gone to meet his ex-girlfriend, Kelly, and started hurling abusive words about Kelly, so obscene that even an 80-year-old would blush. What would happen when he found out about Terry? Thinking about this, Donny's nights were sleepless. Before Martha could ruin his relationship with Terry, the next day he met her and explained everything in detail. It wasn't even 12 p.m. yet, but he had received over 100 emails. As he was checking his emails, Terry asked why he referred to her as Donny. That's when everything started to unfold because he had told Terry his name was Tony on the dating site. He had to lie further to cover up the lie. He gave her various other names like Patlu Pehelwan, Billu Sanda, and Baby Reindeer. Terry started calling him by those names, and he realized she believed him. She also understood that he had been avoiding meeting openly now. She seemed to understand that he was hiding something, but Donny didn't want to risk Martha finding out the truth and possibly ruining everything. He tried to hide from his life or would understand himself. He would come to the pub named The Heart in Camden, and that day would be a grand event. Donny had found out about The Heart pub from Martha's email. If Terry found out that he was not Tony but worked as a bartender in the same pub, then all his secrets would be revealed. He made several attempts to prevent Martha from coming to the pub, but no method worked. He spent the whole night sleepless, and the next day, he took leave from work and ran to meet Terry. Today, he seemed quite energetic. Terry liked this version of Tony a lot. When they entered the bar, he felt as if someone had loosened all the knots in his feet. Neither was he afraid nor worried about what people would think, because everyone here was of an alternate type. In the course of conversation, Terry asked, "What's your real name?" Tony was shocked. Somewhere Terry already knew that people like these hide their real selves. Tony revealed his real name and also that he had not put his real name on the dating website. He was afraid to tell the truth. Maybe that's why he lied to Terry. Terry understood his dilemma well, so she gave him another chance. Perhaps this time he would weave it, after spending some time together. Finally, the moment came when Terry invited him to her house tonight. Catching the train, he started writing the first chapter of his love story. The compartment was filled with chattering passengers. Tony noticed people staring at him with the trans woman. As long as he was with people like himself, he was bold as a lion, but among normal people, he turned into a wet cat. He felt as if everyone had figured out his reality. He was so frightened that as soon as the next station arrived, he left Terry alone and ran away. It was the last chance. It slipped from his hands too. On his way back home, Martha was standing there. She knew about the email matter, and just as Tony wanted to do whatever it takes, Martha was ready to start mistreating him. After that, Tony took a few months off from the pub to avoid Martha. He kept staring at the fan in his room. Then one day, gathering courage, he reached Terry's house. "Ma'am, open the door, it's a delivery." Ma'am opened the door, seeing Tony in front of her. Terry started swearing and went inside. Tony couldn't understand whether she was inviting him inside or running away. But when she left the door open, maybe it meant yes. After the humiliation of that day, Terry didn't even want to look at him, but she still gave him 5 minutes to speak. In those 5 minutes, he honestly told her his name, address, and everything. But nothing was going to happen to their future by working part-time jobs in the pub. What goals do you have in life? What do you want to become in the next 10 years? It felt like Terry was taking a government job interview from him, so he also blurted out, "I want to work for Sharmaji." Like a boy, he also wants to become a comedian. Terry had doubts about him from the beginning, but now she was sure that he was a complete fraud and pushed him out of the house. That day he understood how important it is to stay loyal to someone. He changed everything without thinking about what people would think of him. He met Martha from Terry. It had been over 10 days since then. Just as he felt that she had left his life, the next moment she reached his house. Seeing Tony's condition outside her house, Martha was upset because when Kelly's mom gave her the room for free, it was on the condition that she wouldn't bring her outside mess to the house. If he didn't take any action now, he would have to sleep on the road. In this fear, as soon as he threatened to call the police, Martha quietly left from there. His emails also stopped coming from the next day, and he stopped following him. Just one police threat was enough to make Martha hide. Thinking this, Tony was going home when Martha appeared at the bus stop in front of his house. She kept sitting there for hours, sometimes hiding when she saw Kelly's mom. When Tony passed by there, she would make colorful comments. Sometimes, even at 2 in the night when they returned home, she would still be sitting there. Days went by like this. Slowly, changes started to appear in him. First, he stopped commenting, then he started to look sad. After the rain, now the cold had also come. She just waited for a glimpse of him, sitting at the same bus stop for 15 to 16 hours. Somehow, Tony managed to sneak past her and came home crying. By now it was 3 in the morning. Even now, Martha was sitting there, waiting for him. Otherwise, she would freeze to death. So, Tony explained to her and left her home, sobbing, thinking that he should stop following her. He didn't have enough money to pay someone else's rent. Today's breakup made Tony think that maybe she would stop sitting at the bus stop outside his house. But, on the contrary, a week later, Tony's ex, Kelly, took leave from work and came home because Martha had made her life miserable. Kelly warned her that if Martha didn't stop bothering her psycho girlfriend, she would tell her mom, and instead of staying here for free, she would be on the streets because of Martha. Kelly lost her job because of Martha, and now she might be homeless soon. Today was the semi-final of his comedy show, and he hoped that maybe he would reach the final and get out of the troubles that had been going on for the last 4 years. Then he met Terry and came here to end his relationship with Dhoni and see his struggle. The show started, and as soon as he saw it, Dhoni's turn came. He presented his experience of 5 years in front of the audience. All the audience were enjoying his comedy when suddenly a woman among the audience started humming a song. It was not someone else but Martha. In response, Dhoni also said, "Thank you, stranger friend. I'm not a stranger. Tell everyone that I'm your ex." Then Dhoni introduced her to everyone as his ex. "Brother," she immediately flared up, saying, "How dare you speak like that? I'll show you your reality." Then she started showing the same email that her friends had sent her as a joke. Somehow, Martha was dragged out of the show. But by then, she had already tarnished Dhoni's performance. She was venting her anger, and then Terry came. Behind her, Martha was there. He snuck out from behind the way. Terry couldn't believe he was running away from an angry woman. In this excuse, he got a chance to explain to Terry. Terry sympathized with him, but she wasn't going to give him another chance. Meanwhile, Martha got worse. What will be the end of this story? Stay tuned to find out.